Île-de-France, Island of France, also known as the région parisienne, is one of the 18 regions of France, and includes the city of Paris. It covers 12,012 square kilometers, and has its own regional council and president. It has a population of 12,005,077 as of January 2014, or 18.2% of the population of France. The region is made up of 8 administrative departments: Paris, Essonne, Hauts-de-Seine, Seine-Saint-Denis, Seine-et-Marne, Val-de-Marne, Val-d'Oise and Yvelines. Created as the district of the Paris region in 1961, it was renamed after the historic province of Île-de-France in 1976 when its administrative status was aligned with the other French administrative regions created in 1972. Residents are sometimes referred to as Francilians, an administrative word created in the 1980s. The GDP of the region in 2012 was €612.3 billion. It has the highest per capita GDP among regions in France, and the third highest of regions in the European Union. In 2014, 30 companies from the Fortune Global 500 had their headquarters in the Paris region. Etymology. Although the modern name Île-de-France literally means Island of France, the etymology is in fact unclear. The island may refer to the land between the rivers Oise, and Seine, or it may also have been a reference to the Île-de-France, in which case Island of France was originally a pars pro toto, or perhaps a metonym. Yet another possibility is that the term is a corruption of a hypothesized Frankish language term, Little Frank, meaning Little France or Little Frankish land, so the modern reference to an island may be coincidental. However, this theory might be anachronistic, since the name L'Île-de-France is not documented prior to 1387. History. The ancient région of France is one of the historical provinces of France, and the one at the center of power during most of French history. The province was centered on Paris, seat of the Crown of France. The area around Paris was the original personal domain of the King of France, as opposed to areas ruled by feudal lords of whom he was the suzerain. This is reflected by divisions such as the Vexin Français and the Vexin Normand, the former being within the King of France's domain, the latter being within the Duke of Normandy's fief. The old provinces were abolished during the French Revolution in the late 18th century and divided between newly devised subdivisions called departments. An area not entirely corresponding to the historical Île-de-France province was created in 1959 as District de la Région de Paris. The district was reconstituted as the Île-de-France region on 6 May 1976, and increased administrative and political powers devolved in the process of regionalization in the 1980s and 1990s. Geography. Île-de-France has a land area of 12,011 square kilometers. It is composed of 8 departments centered on its innermost department and capital, Paris. Around the department of Paris, urbanization fills a first concentric ring of 3 departments commonly known as the Petit Couronne, and extends into a second outer ring of 4 departments known as the Grande Couronne. The former department of Seine, abolished in 1968, included the city proper and parts of the Petite Couronne. The Petite Couronne consists of the departments of Hauts-de-Seine, Seine-Saint-Denis, and Val-de-Marne, and the Grande Couronne of those of Seine-et-Marne, Yvelines, Essonne, and Val-d'Oise. The River Seine runs through the region. The Seine has many tributaries, including the rivers Oise and Aube. It is France's second largest river after the Loire. The region is in an area of lowland called the Paris Basin. South of this region lies the Massif Central, an area of highlands that are higher than the surrounding countryside but far lower than the Alps. The climate of the region is quite similar to those of England and Western Germany. except that it has warmer summers and milder winters than England, and receives less rain than England does. Economy. The Paris region is France's premier centre of economic activity, with a 2012 gross domestic product of €612 billion. Its GDP is estimated to reach €650 billion by 2015. In 2011, its GDP ranked second among the regions of Europe, and its per capita GDP was the fourth highest in Europe. While the Paris region's population accounted for 18.8% of metropolitan France in 2011, the Paris region's GDP accounted for 30.1% of metropolitan France's GDP. It hosts the world headquarters of 30 Fortune Global 500 companies. The regional economy has been gradually shifting towards high-value-added service industries and high-tech manufacturing. The Paris region's most intense economic activity takes place in the central Hauts-de-Seine department and suburban Île-de-France business district, in a triangle between the Opéra Garnier, Île-de-France and the Val-de-Seine. While the Paris economy is dominated by services, and employment in manufacturing sector has declined sharply, the region remains an important manufacturing center, particularly for aeronautics, automobiles, and eco-industries. The per capita income of the region is the largest of NUTS-1 regions in the European Union and is third per capita after Luxembourg and Brussels, with $71,126. Tourism in Paris is a major component of the regional economy, since the region includes both Paris and Disneyland Paris. The Paris region received 32.3 million visitors in 2013, putting the region just ahead of London as the world's top tourist destination region, measured by hotel occupancy. The largest numbers of foreign tourists to the Paris region came in order from the United Kingdom, the United States, Germany, Italy and China. According to the 2011 census, 59.0% of the regional workforce is in commerce, transportation and market services. 26.8% worked in non-market services, 8.6% worked in manufacturing, mining, and utilities, 5.3% worked in construction, and 0.3% worked in agriculture. The majority of the region's salaried employees fill 370,000 businesses services jobs, concentrated in the northwest and 8th, 16th and 17th arrondissements. Paris's financial service companies are concentrated in the central western 8th and 9th arrondissements banking and insurance district. Paris's department store district in the 1st, 6th, 8th and 9th arrondissements employs 10% of mostly female Paris workers, with 100,000 of these registered in the retail trade. 14% of Parisians work in hotels and restaurants and other services to individuals. 19% of Paris employees work for the state in either administration or education. The majority of Paris healthcare and social workers work at the hospitals and social housing concentrated in the peripheral 13th, 14th, 18th, 19th and 20th arrondissements. Outside Paris, the western Hauts-de-Seine department, Île-de-France district specializing in finance, insurance and scientific research district is the largest dedicated business district in all of Europe and employs more than 150,000 as of 2012 and estimated to reach 200,000 by 2015 and 300,000 by 2019. And the northeastern Seine-Saint-Denis audiovisual sector has 200 media firms and 10 major film studios. Paris's manufacturing is centered in its suburbs. The city itself has 75,000 manufacturing workers, with most of these in the textile, clothing, leather goods and shoe trades. Paris region manufacturing specializes in transportation, mainly automobiles, aircraft and trains, but this is in a sharp decline. Paris proper manufacturing jobs dropped by 64% between 1990 and 2010, and the Paris region lost 48% during the same period. Most of this is due to companies relocating outside the Paris region. The Paris region's 800 aerospace companies employed 100,000. 400 automobile industry companies employ another 100,000 workers. Many of these are in the Yvelines department around the Renault and PSA Citroën plants. But the industry as a whole suffered a major loss with the 2014 closing of a major Aulnay-sous-Bois Citroën assembly plant. The southern Essonne department specializes in science and technology, and the southeastern Val-de-Marne, with its wholesale Rungus food market, specializes in food processing and beverages. The Paris region's manufacturing decline is quickly being replaced by eco-industries. These employ about 100,000 workers. In 2011, while only 56,927 construction workers worked in Paris itself, its metropolitan area employed 246,639, in an activity centered largely around the Seine-Saint-Denis and Hauts-de-Seine departments and the new business park centers appearing there. Regional government and politics. The Regional Council is the legislative body of the region. Its seat is in Paris, at 33 Rue Barbet de Jouy in the 7th arrondissement. On December 15, 2015, a list of candidates of the Union of the Right, a coalition of centrist and right-wing parties, led by Valérie Pécresse, narrowly won the regional election, defeating the Union of the Left, a coalition of socialists and ecologists. The socialists had governed the region for the preceding 17 years. In 2016, the new Regional Council will have 121 members from the Union of the Right, 66 from the Union of the Left and 22 from the extreme right National Front. Holders of the Executive Office Delegates General for the District of the Paris Region 1961 to 1969, Paul Delavrier, very influential term, responsible for the creation of the RER Express subway network in the Île-de-France and beyond. 1969 to 1975, Maurice Doublet, 1975–1976, Lucien Lanier. Presidents of the Regional Council of Île-de-France 1976–1988, Michel Giraud 1988–1992, Pierre-Charles Cree 1992–1998, Michel Giraud 1998–2015, Jean-Paul Huchon 2016, Valérie Pécresse. Political tendencies. Demographics. Paris's demographic development, represented by the Paris metropolitan area, fills most of the Île-de-France. Its central built-up area, or pôle urbain, extends beyond the Île-de-France's in of three Petite Couronne departments, and this is surrounded by a commuter belt rim that extends beyond the region's four outer Grande Couronne departments in places. Petite Couronne. The Petite Couronne is the hub of the urban agglomeration of Paris. It is formed by the three departments of Île-de-France, bordering with the French capital and forming a geographical crown around it. The departments, until 1968 part of the disbanded Seine department, Hauts-de-Seine, Seine-Saint-Denis and Val-de-Marne, The most populated towns of the Petite Couronne are Boulogne, Billancourt, Montreuil, Saint-Denis, Nanterre and Créteil. The table below shows some statistical information about the area including Paris. Grande Couronne. The Grande Couronne includes the towns of the metropolitan area, part of the other 4 departments of Île-de-France not bordering with Paris. They are Seine-et-Marne, Yvelines, Essonne and Val-d'Oise. The latter 3 departments formed the Seine-et-Ouest department until this was disbanded in 1968. The city of Versailles is part of this area. Historical population immigration. Paris and the Île-de-France region hosts one of the largest concentrations of immigrants in Europe. As of 2006, about 35% of people living in the region were either immigrant or born to at least one immigrant parent. At the 2010 census, 23.0% of the total population in the Île-de-France region had been born outside metropolitan France, up from 19.7% at the 1999 census. International relations. Twin regions. Île-de-France is twinned with Comunidad de Madrid in Spain, Yerevan in Armenia,